Some posts on X, account named Econ Watch USA. Trump threatens 25% tariffs on Mexico to curb migration and drugs. It's effective, but what will happen to economic relations with our neighbor? Freedom fighter U.S. The Trump administration is doing the right thing, deporting criminals, building the border wall, and protecting America. CBP data shows the border is safer than ever. American dreamer. Trump's border policies deter many from crossing, but they also push people into danger in Mexico. A fairer approach is needed. These posts are based on information from reliable sources and public discussion trends regarding the U.S. border in 2025. One of the most notable changes at the U.S. border in 2025 is the significant reduction in the number of migrants illegally crossing the southern border. According to a report by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection released in March 2025, the number of migrant apprehensions at the southwest border in March 2025 dropped by 90% compared to February 2025 and by 93% compared to the same period in 2024. Specifically, CBP's Office of Field Operations recorded only 3,962 cases of unauthorized foreign nationals at ports of entry, compared to 32,346 cases in the previous month. The primary reason for this decline is attributed to the strict policies of the administration of President Donald Trump, who was re-elected and took office in January 2025. Executive orders issued immediately after his inauguration strengthened border control, including the cancellation of some immigration policies from the previous administration, such as the CBP One app, which allowed asylum seekers to schedule appointments from Mexico. Instead, the new administration implemented a detain and deport immediately policy, with a clear message that those crossing the border illegally will not be released into the U.S. interior, but will be swiftly deported. Additionally, closer cooperation with regional countries, particularly Mexico, has played a significant role. Mexico has intensified its efforts to curb migration at its southern border, preventing many migrants from reaching the U.S. border. This has reduced pressure on U.S. Border Patrol forces and contributed to the substantial decrease in illegal crossings. One of the most controversial developments in 2025 is the extensive deployment of the U.S. military to control the southern border. On April 12, 2025, President Trump issued an executive order designating the Roosevelt Reservation strip of federal land along the border in California, Arizona, and New Mexico as a national defense zone. This decision allowed the U.S. military, including units from the 2nd Stryker Brigade of the 4th Infantry Division, to be deployed in areas such as El Paso and Big Bend to conduct border surveillance and control operations. This executive order marked a turning point in border control approaches, as it was the first time regular military forces were tasked with directly managing a land border area. Consequently, migrants crossing into this area are considered to be trespassing in a military zone and may be detained by the military. This move has raised concerns about excessive militarization and potential human rights violations, particularly for asylum seekers. Furthermore, the U.S. military has been mobilized to support deportation flights. According to witness at the border, in February 2025, 27 deportation flights were conducted using military aircraft, returning migrants to countries such as Guatemala, Honduras, and Ecuador. However, the use of military aircraft for this purpose has faced opposition from some countries, including Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, which have refused to accept military deportation flights. The Trump administration has intensified a large-scale deportation campaign, referred to as mass deportation, aimed at removing illegal immigrants, particularly those deemed security threats. One notable action is the use of the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba to detain the most dangerous criminal immigrants. According to a White House statement, this facility will be expanded to its maximum capacity, marking the first time migrants apprehended within the U.S. interior are transferred to Guantanamo. The use of Guantanamo has sparked significant legal and human rights controversies. Critics argue that detaining migrants at a military facility abroad may violate fundamental rights, including the right to a fair trial. Moreover, reports from deportees indicate that conditions on military flights, including the use of handcuffs, have caused difficulties and discontent. Guatemala, one of the countries receiving deportees, has called on the U.S. to improve the process to avoid overwhelming its reception system. Notably, some deportation cases have been controversial, particularly the use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport 137 Venezuelan men to a prison in El Salvador in March 2025. These individuals were suspected of being members of criminal organizations, but many claimed they had no criminal records and were detained based on unclear evidence, such as tattoos on their bodies. Human rights organizations have condemned this use of the act, arguing that it violates the right to a fair trial and may lead to discriminatory practices. To address the issues of migration and drug smuggling, the Trump administration has employed aggressive economic measures, particularly imposing tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada. On February 1, 2025, President Trump announced a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico, citing the country's insufficient efforts to curb drug smuggling organizations and illegal migration. However, just 2 days later, the White House announced a temporary suspension of the tariffs until March 4, 2025, to evaluate the measures Mexico had implemented. Similarly, Canada faced comparable pressure through a separate executive order, with a 25% tariff on general goods and a 10% tariff on energy products. As with Mexico, these tariffs were also temporarily suspended to allow Canada time to cooperate more closely on controlling the northern border. These actions have strained diplomatic relations with both neighboring countries. Mexico, under the leadership of President Claudia Sheinbaum, responded by emphasizing that it had already taken robust measures to control migration and urged the United States to address its internal issues, such as drug demand and arms smuggling. Canada also expressed dissatisfaction, arguing that the tariff measures were unnecessary and could harm bilateral economic relations. The changes in border policies have had far-reaching impacts on communities in the United States and neighboring countries. In the U.S., community organizations in border states like Arizona and Texas have held training sessions on immigrants' rights and psychological preparation for the risk of deportation. These groups are concerned that the new policies could lead to increased discrimination and undermine the rights of legal immigrants. In Mexico, tens of thousands of migrants are stranded in cities like Tapachula, near the border with Guatemala, due to stringent controls by Mexican authorities. Living conditions in these areas are often harsh, with risks of kidnapping and exploitation by criminal organizations. Local human rights organizations estimate that approximately 50,000 migrants are living precariously in Tapachula, facing an uncertain future. In the United States, public opinion remains divided. Some support the hardline measures, arguing they are necessary to protect national security and reduce illegal immigration. However, others, including human rights activists and some Democratic lawmakers, have voiced opposition, asserting that these policies are not only inhumane, but could also lead to long-term economic and diplomatic consequences. Looking ahead, the situation at the U.S. border may continue to evolve in complex ways. With the U.S. Congress discussing the 2025 budget, the Trump administration may secure additional resources to advance its border control and deportation plans. However, current financial constraints have limited the mass deportation campaign from reaching the scale initially anticipated. Additionally, legal challenges are emerging. Numerous lawsuits have been filed by human rights organizations, alleging that the administration is violating migrants' fundamental rights. The outcomes of these lawsuits could significantly influence how border policies are implemented in the future. Diplomatically, the United States will need to maintain cooperation with Mexico and Central American countries to address the root causes of migration, including poverty, violence, and political instability. Without long-term solutions, border control measures may only yield temporary results. The year 2025 has witnessed significant progress in the United States' efforts to control its borders, with a sharp decline in illegal crossings and unprecedented military involvement. However, these policies have also sparked controversies over human rights, legal issues, and diplomatic relations. In an increasingly polarized social and political landscape, finding a balanced solution that addresses both national security and respect for human rights will remain a major challenge for the United States in the near future. This article has utilized reliable sources and perspectives from social media to provide a comprehensive view. For a deeper understanding, readers can refer to statements from DHS, CBP, or reports from Reuters, The Guardian, and WOLA.
Señor, yo estoy yendo a la corte de
Yeah. Double for now. Yep. Teague, here, Milwaukee.
5 minutes. My daily duties are to
primary area is the valley, so I do from Frontone down to Browns.
Thank you very much, everyone. You'll get a crew together. You'll get a crew together.
That's the water, dude.
I'm not worried about that. You'll get a crew together.
That's the water, dude.
You'll get a crew together.
Put it to where you know the strands are going to touch. Not
Right through the center.
Yeah, you might have to put it lower.
I'll just go a little bit further, all right?
Couple minutes. Go get a crew together and start back.
I'm with the Echo Company here. I've been out here for winter. The water's a little bit colder, kind of stops some of them coming, but overall, it's been a steady flow of population trying to come across. That's the water, dude.
Why don't we have...
Further out. Bring him a little further out because we're worried about them mixing through. Good. Red tide?
Hey, you guys good over there? You're gonna get carried up as fast as you can.
Here in summer, generally more crossings can be seen. Now that it's winter, so by the time I've been here, it has been pretty consistent.
stop them from being able to manipulate these barriers and move traffic through. So we have it up here up top, and you can see it's double layered with the C-wire on the bottom, but the guys will. Where else is down here, some of the drone teams, to be able to hopefully intercept those bad actors.
They fluctuate depending on the time of the year, so I got cross or stopping at the fence line. Control the fence line and
It is legitimately.
Come on, go get a crew down here. That's the water, dude. Why don't we have... Keep going. Take it this way, this way.
We had a couple barriers that we drove Canada over, and we pointed it that way.
Task Force South, DPS, and whoever working on placing more C-wire on the anti-climb barrier to reinforce that barrier. String together here. We're going to reinforce it with C-wire on it as well to make it even more anti-climb. So this is going to be a little more beneficial for us. What we've been seeing here in Brownsville, which I think is actually unique to this area, is there's a heavy amount of cutting. We have bad actors that are coming over, opening up the wire, allowing traffic to move through, even as we lay more wire in. With this ACB reinforced with the C-wire, it's going to slow that down a little bit. They're going to have to do a lot more cutting to get through the ACB. They obviously can't manipulate it by pushing it down or putting close. We're making progress for them to complete. So what we're trying to do is create a barrier that's going to allow on it, and then climbing it will be a very hard task.
That looks a lot, dude.
Why don't we have... Where they're at. Bring them a little further out. We're worried about them getting through.
Thank you very much. One last thing, I want to give a shout out. Banners in the field. Move excellent. Because of President Donald Trump.
Go get a crew guy to start back. Go get a crew guy to start back.
That looks a lot, dude.
Why don't we have... Go get a crew guy to start back. Go get a crew guy to start back. Go get a crew guy to start back.
Go get a crew together and start.
That looks a lot.
Go ahead. Go get a crew together and start.
That looks a lot, dude.
Why don't we have...
Where they're at. Bring them to the
I'm worried about the recent group.
On the bank of the river to try to slow down some of the crossings that are happening here.
SRT 1 OIC. As the OIC, I kind of manage the team.
That's a lot, dude. Why don't we have... Where they're at? Bring them a little further out. We're worried about the mixed groups.
Border as needed, but right now we're focused here in Brownsville. Uh, 8-foot by 12-foot gates, fences that we're able to.
I thought you were talking about me. I was like,